It's been forever, you guys! Yes, I've been gone for approximately 1,000 years. Sorry. But we're going to skip through that, the explanation bit, because I think I need to be a bit more realistic about how frequently I'm able to upload videos like this. It's fun for me. I love writing, I love making YouTube videos, and I love putting stuff out there for people and getting lovely comments and stuff. But I'm just tired. So I'm gonna be uploading when I can, and I think I just need to, be realistic about what I can achieve. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Big loves. Okay, so you may remember that long ago when I last posted a video that Vanessa was on the brink of a very important decision. So, I think we should just dive right in. I think we should have some Littleland. I have quite literally no idea what chapter we're up to. I'm going to put it on the screen. No, I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to actually look it up. You might remember the drill. I know it's been a while. And just in case you don't remember the drill, what you're going to need is a comfortable place to sit and listen to a story. You are going to need a storytime companion. I have a whole array on the bed. In addition, a kitty. And you're going to snuggle down somewhere, get very, very comfy, and get ready to have a story. Okay? Okay. This is Littleland, Part 2, Chapter 24. Vanessa reasoned that regardless of her decision, she'd still be leaving the mountain with a sore bottom. It was simply a matter of weighing the pros and cons. On the positive side, if she picked the outdoor option, it would be a shorter ordeal. But it would be memorable. Memorable and freezing cold. She pictured herself standing before him as he sat on the fallen log, shaking in her snow boots, waiting for her bottom to be bared to the elements and smacked harder than ever before. Vanessa shuddered, forcing her thoughts back to her list. Her mind was blank. There were no positives to an outdoor spanking, other than the duration. It was going to hurt, and she was probably going to cry. And yet, she was entirely prepared to submit to his discipline. She didn't want a spanking, but she knew she'd earned one. But this, being made to choose the location, it unsettled her. The cons were self-evident. Cold, naked outdoors, a spanking. Her toes curled inside her boots just thinking about it. Then again, a long spanking could be worse. If she chose to get it over with now, her pants would be back up before she knew it. If she opted to take her discipline inside, who knew how long she'd be over his knee? Hours? Days? The rest of her stay? And who knew how far sound would travel? Vanessa pictured the others cringing, mittens over their earmuffs as they approached the little cabin. Then again, maybe they'd giggle at her cries. Vanessa wasn't sure which was worse. It occurred to her that the group was just as likely to hear her distress if she took her discipline outdoors. Perhaps even more so. Vanessa swallowed a groan. She could always try to keep quiet, she supposed. Then all they would hear would be spanks echoing through the woods. Though it wasn't an overly comforting thought, it was just enough to help Vanessa decide. Papa Tom, she ventured. Yes, little miss. I want to... She paused, unsure of how to complete the sentence. I want to get it over with here, she said, finally. As soon as the words left her mouth, she wished that she could snatch them back. A spanking was bad enough with privacy. Why had she elected to receive her discipline out here where any of her peers might wander past? Hearing her howl was bad enough. Very well, little one, he said, groaning with exertion as he rose from the stump he was perched on. Wait, no, said Vanessa, her knees shaking as she pivoted to face the park's grandfather. I think I made a mistake. she whispered, looking up at him. "What's that, miss?" "You need to use your biggest voice with me," he said, cupping his ear. "I am very old, and I'm all the way up here, you see. I don't know if I made the right choice," she projected, trembling. "Oh?" he asked, taking her hand. "Would you like to riddle it out together?" Vanessa nodded, her eyes brimming. "Well, what made you decide to choose the outdoors? To get it over with faster? I suppose the next question to ask is, what made you second-guess your decision?" "Don't want anyone to see or hear," Vanessa mumbled. "Don't want a spanking at all," she thought, but was sensible enough not to share that opinion. "Ah," he said, stroking his beard. "Well, I can't guarantee your privacy, little miss. I do know that the others are headed in the opposite direction," said Papa Tom, reasonably. "So, unless one of your pals decides to run away, we've the woods to ourselves." "I don't think anyone would after—" Vanessa was going to say, after what happened to Aiden, but her tongue seemed to have dried out. "After yesterday's cautionary tale," the old man supplied. "No, I dare say not. And on the subject of noise, I'm afraid that that's mostly up to you." The little girl reddened as she gave a sigh. Her primary reservations reasoned away with startling ease. "I think I picked right." "You think?" "I did pick right," she said, more decisively. "Well then," he said, "shall we?" "No," Vanessa tried. Papa Tom paid her no mind, simply scooped the little one from the ground and hefted her onto his hip. "Alas, but we shall," he said, heading purposefully towards the previously indicated log. She tried to protest, but the words didn't come. She froze in his arms, both metaphorically and then physically, as she was laid across his knee. Her skirt flipped up and snow pants gently eased over her bottom. Though he had only bared the smallest possible amount of skin required for a firm spanking, and she had tried to steel herself against the impending cold, Vanessa's entire body shivered when the first blast of frigid air touched her skin. Above her, Papa Tom shifted. Unbeknownst to Vanessa, the old man was removing his winter glove, at least until his soft, warm hand made its first contact with her backside. She squeaked and gave a jump. "That's it. Just relax," he said, mildly. "Good girl." Vanessa could feel her heartbeat in her throat. She swallowed nervously. How was she meant to relax in this situation? This was the perfect situation in which to panic. Dully, she was aware that the span of his hand protected her backside from the cold, and the warmth from his palm actually felt sort of... Vanessa's stomach filled with butterflies. She closed her eyes tightly, attempting to banish her previous thoughts. She was in no way ready to admit that to herself. Not yet. "Now then, is this your first spanking?" Vanessa shook her head. "I've had a few." "A few? I see. Well then, you should know how to behave when you're over a big person's knee." "I can behave. No sass and no kicking." She was trembling now, hyper-aware of every small movement he made, knowing that the first startling smack could descend at any moment. "That's about it, yes," he said. "Now that we've had this little chat, I shan't give you any reminders once we begin, little miss." Vanessa whimpered her understanding. "Good. I'll be seeing to your thighs as well as your tail if you start misbehaving." "Understood." Vanessa tensed her backside at this, and she could swear she heard a soft chuckle from above her. "I'll behave, I promise," she said, her voice shaking. She cringed at how small she sounded. "Good girl. Let's get to it then." "Someone needs some discipline, doesn't she?" The little girl squeezed her eyes shut, giving no response. She felt as if she couldn't speak. hot clouds of humiliation filling her lungs instead of air. Isn't that right? I need a spanking, she said softly. You certainly do. What's the magic word, little one? Please? In a full sentence, if you would. But, she began, scrunching her features, her stomach roiling. Why? I believe the phrase is because I asked you to, madam. Papa Tom, she pleaded. That's me, he said, nodding above her. Yes, little one. Vanessa made a noise that was half whine, half sigh, deflating over his lap. She knew that there was no way out of this, no reason that could justify her actions. What did you want to say? He prompted. Papa Tom, I need a spanking. Will you please give me one? Good girl. Lovely manners, said Papa Tom, his hand stirring to life, drumming his fingers on her skin. It pains me to have to warm your backside, but you've earned this, haven't you? Vanessa nodded, squeezing her eyes shut yet again. Yes, sir. Naughty girl. Let's see if we can't do something about that, shall we? Even putting aside the frozen air and the snow that threatened to fall on top of them, this was already the worst spanking Vanessa had ever received. There was no couch beneath them, just the weathered old log. Her limbs dangled haphazardly in mid-air as she tried to find balance over his knee. Papa Tom's hand was woefully accurate, solid, and moved at a snail's pace. By the time a second smack seared across her bottom, the sting from the first had just faded, only to be relit moments later when his hand cracked down again. Vanessa released a tiny squeak as his hand curled around her midsection to pull her in close. Now then, he said, and Vanessa felt the hairs prickle on the back of her neck. What do you have to say for yourself, little one? Papa Tom's spanking arm was unlike anything the little girl had ever experienced. Tears had already begun to prick her eyes, and she hadn't yet survived a minute of this. What are you sorry for, little one? Everything! Vanessa cried. Well, her plan of stoicism had been good while it lasted. But Vanessa was too focused on the immediate threat of another spank to dwell on the embarrassment of being heard. Above her, Papa Tom clucked his tongue. Come now, I suspect you know that's not a full answer. For throwing a juice at you. That's part of it, he agreed. There's also the shouting, the disobeying your miss, littering, he finished, with incredulity. I'm sorry I shouted at you and had a tantrum. I'm sorry for litter. I'm sorry for all of it. Vanessa drew in a shaky breath, a sob caught in her throat. Thank you, said Papa Tom, still slowly cracking his hand across her cheeks. It's very important that you learn the proper way to behave, little girl. You'll not get far in life if you need to shout to be understood. Yes, sir, Vanessa said. You'll get even less if you litter, especially if I'm around to see it. Do you understand? I understand you, she confirmed, mournfully. Now that we've established what you've done, I'd like you to think about this, the grandfatherly man said as he kept to his slow rhythm. Why did you do it? Papa Tom spoke clearly here, carefully enunciating each word. Vanessa groaned, clearly having anticipated this question. It was a question she'd been asked many times, and it was one she dreaded on every single occasion. Now, I'll give you a little while to think, but we'd best not linger too long with your dacks down like this. I suggest you think nice and hard, little one. Okay, Vanessa groaned. He spanked her in silence, the sound of his strokes echoing through the trees, just as predicted. Overhead, and over her wails, Vanessa heard a bird calling. The wind continued to blow, though her exposed skin was beginning to feel numb to the chill under Papa Tom's dreary onslaught. Vanessa's mind wandered, feeling unable to focus on the task at hand with such a solid distraction whacking her in the backside. She didn't want to reflect. She wanted a hug, but she was running out of time. She knew it. So, what happened? Why were you so naughty? His voice broke the silence. I don't know, Vanessa moaned, cupping her face in her mittens. I feel you're telling me fibs, little miss. His hand started to fall quickly, or at least quicker than it had been. The intensity wasn't lessened, however, and the sob caught in Vanessa's throat freed itself. She couldn't answer him. She just cried as he spanked her harder. I think you might know why you were acting up. I think you had sore legs and a very wet bottom, and that made you feel cranky. Papa Tom, please. She tried, but was firmly cut off with another slow volley of extra powerful swats. No, madam, let me finish, please, he said, the hint of displeasure in his voice growing more pronounced. I think your miss gave you a rule that made you feel embarrassed, so you chose not to follow it. Is that all sounding fair so far? It's all fair, she spluttered. Do you think it's good to have tantrums? He asked, and Vanessa wished she could fold herself in half, tuck her blushing tear streaks away from the light until this was all over. No, sir. Naughty, she admitted in a whisper. Tantrums are very, very naughty, the old man agreed. Even naughtier when they involve littering. I know I don't need to repeat myself, but you will not thank me for what I do if I hear of you throwing litter again, miss. Mind my words. I'll never ever do ever again, Papa Tom, I swear. See that you don't. Thank you, Papa Tom said, his hand slowing to a slightly more tolerable pace. And what about your rule, Something to do with accidents. I meant to tell Miss Mia when I've gone in my nappy, she admitted, her little voice mournful. And I didn't. Vanessa sniffled, then winced as Tom's hand slapped down with speed. Are you allowed to pick and choose the rules that you follow, little one? Vanessa responded with a pained groan that earned her 2 sets of extra forceful swats. They emptied her lungs of air and prompted fresh waves of tears to pour down her cheeks. No, not allowed to choose rules, the little girl cried. Gotta follow them all, even if it's embarrassing. Good girl, Papa Tom said, returning to his steady pace. Your miss sets you rules for a reason. Why do you think she might have set you this one? To stop me from getting a rash. And to stop me leaking. Well, that seems fair to me, said Papa Tom, his hand at last beginning to slow. What do you think, little one? It's fair, the little girl admitted. It's just embarrassing. Sometimes things that are good for us are embarrassing, darling, said Papa Tom, his enormous paw gently patting her aching bottom. Vanessa's arms rippled with goose flesh, and she let out a shuddery sigh as his hand came to rest. Gotta be brave and do it, Vanessa sniffled. Good girl. You have been very brave. The butterflies in Vanessa's stomach took flight at this, and she ducked her head to hide cheeks blushing with pleasure. Thank you. I did my best. Well done. All right, we're almost finished here. Just one more thing to take care of. Yeah? Asked Vanessa, her voice small and uncertain. Yes. What do you say when you've been naughty, miss? I'm sorry, Papa Tom. Sorry for being naughty. And that's the end. Not the end of Littleland. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Littleland. Yet again, I apologize that it took me this long to get it out to you. But I had a big problem with creativity and not being able to figure out where the story should go, or how to write a short spanking. I have more videos and things planned. They will be out when I am able to put them out. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for watching this episode of Littleland. I hope you all have just the bestest week. I hope you finish up your week feeling like you can do anything. 'Cause you're all really strong and good and brave, and I'm pretty sure you can do anything. Okay. Bye, everybody.